Alrighty. Now we're gonna go on to. I want to wait till the video starts. Okay. Looks like it has begun. It looks like it has begun. Alright, so we're gonna go into the topic of lust, and this is to counter laziness and also associate with laziness in a way. All of these feelings, I would say, are going to be kind of correlated in a strange way, but we can go ahead and discover how that may be as we read along. So, I think everyone struggles with every one of these in some way or another. If you think it doesn't apply one time or another, it definitely has. So let's go ahead and start with Deuteronomy, which is chapter 22, verses 22 to 24. And this lays out kind of a law, a harsh law. So we have to take into context a little bit, and then we'll go into a narrative that kind of contrasts what is being said here. So Deuteronomy chapter 22 says, if a man is found sleeping with another man's wife, both the man who slept with her and the woman must die. You must purge the evil from Israel. If a man happens to meet a town virgin, pledged to be married, and he sleeps with her, you shall take both of them to the gate of that town and stone them to death. The young woman because she was in a town and did not scream for help, and the man because he violated another man's wife. You must purge evil from among you. So this goes to say that the Bible in fact holds the covenant of marriage highly, highly sacred. And it is a very, very strong covenant, and it is a very, very strong bond that affects lineage, it affects many, many forms of life. So the reason why it is framed in this manner with such a harsh punishment for muddying the tie of a marriage is with good reason, because the amount of dedication and energy and time and love being poured into a future couple was very, very high. It still is. It still is. I feel like now we definitely take these things very, very light, especially when it comes to dating or sexual relations. We take these things very, very light, but the essence of marriage is very, very sacred and should be held as such, because the punishment at that time was very, very extreme. And even today, it can be still very extreme. So let's go on to 2 Samuel and hear maybe a contrasting perspective. Of course, I believe 2 Samuel is a little bit after Deuteronomy. Yes, so it's a little bit after, but still in the Old Testament, just a few books after. So this will just go ahead and demonstrate kind of that rapid change in times and the change of thinking slightly. So chapter 11, verses 1 through 12, and verse 14. In the spring, at the times when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites, besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanliness. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David, saying, 'I am pregnant.' So David sent word to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants, and did not go down to his house. David was told Uriah did not go home. So he asked Uriah, "Haven't you just come from a military campaign? Why didn't you go home?" Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my commander Joab and my lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it with Uriah. Okay. So, this is a bit of a contrasting thing, because David, as we know, was a great king. How could a great king held to such high stature be open, pretty much open, and okay with breaking this sacred covenant, this sacred law? And Uriah and Bathsheba, the woman in the bath, they were already married. So the fact that David just completely went against that, he's like, my way or the highway, I think is the thinking that a lot of us might have. I don't know, but I think he excused himself because Joab was out to war, and I don't know if he had some kind of sense that she might have been neglected in a way. The fact that maybe Joab didn't go home right after he came home, that could have been maybe a factor. And it actually turned out that if we read, I was curious as to what happened after that. I read a little bit further into the narrative, and David actually sent, or he, as Uriah was going back out to war, he instructed Joab to put him on the front lines so he would get murdered first. So I think David was, in fact, a little bit offended that he was ready to kind of give Bathsheba back to him, with gifts and love, which is kind of raunchy and a little nasty, but also the fact that she was pregnant. But he was just ready to, okay, he's gonna sleep with her, they'll think it's his baby, blah blah blah. He was being a little sneaky with that. But he actually was offended the fact that he didn't, and then I think scared the fact that if he came home and realized she was pregnant, he would know something happened. So he basically said, put him on the front lines, and Uriah ended up getting killed in the war. So that's a shame. And I read along even further, it said God was not pleased with that. He was angry and upset that took place, because not only did he violate a covenant, a sacred covenant, he basically killed this person. So definitely shame on David. Even though he's a king and he's highly regarded, he's still not perfect and makes mistakes. So that's something to take note. Of course, they weren't going to behead Bathsheba, or they weren't going to stone David or Bathsheba. So that also goes to show status may have a factor in these things. Who knows what punishment God had in store? But I'm sure you can read and find out a little bit more about that. But let's go on to Matthew, and then this is chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. You have heard that it was said, "You shall not commit adultery." But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully, looks at a woman lustfully, and I'm sure you've heard this before, you guys. This is something, okay, sorry, all right. I'm sure you've heard, this is a great one. Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body and than for your whole body for your whole body to go into hell. Okay, so this is a very gruesome and graphic command, right? But it's not to be taken as a literal command. I actually heard somebody speak about this on Facebook recently, that this verse right here is more so referring to figurative body parts, in the sense of you're trying to get to the root of what's causing that lustfulness, what's causing your urges and your thoughts. You want to try to get to the root and get rid of it, gouge it out, block it out, whatever you need to do to avoid thinking in a certain way that's going to make you think differently and unpurely. So this is just, very gruesome, but it's not to be taken completely literal. It just basically is saying get to the root of the issue, one way or another, in the most pure and honest manner. So let's go on to Romans chapter 13, verses 8 through 14. So let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing that to love one another. For whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and whatever other command there may be, are summed up in this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. And do this, understanding the present time. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over, the day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us behave decently, as in the daytime, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual immorality and debauchery, not in dissension and jealousy. Rather, clothe yourselves with the Lord Jesus Christ, and do not think about how to gratify your desires of the flesh. Valid, you guys. And it's saying here, love is really the answer to everything. And what we want to try to get to is that source, that pure love, that pure, unmessy love. That's what we want to try to get to. And if you can really love everybody with that heart, then no other cloudy vision should interrupt you, and you should be able to stay very, very well on that straight and narrow path that is so very important during this time, or that wedge that we talked about. And I've been skipping the Quran. I've been a little behind, so you can see I was out last night, but yes, we'll get to it tomorrow. But yes, this is very, very important. Just kind of try your best to distract yourself with what we were talking about earlier, with the work and the toil and working with your hands. The more that is done, the less you'll think about all of the other things. But of course, if you are happily married or in a relationship, it is important to embrace all those yummy types of love that we do enjoy so much. So let's go on to James, which is the last one of this section. This is chapter 1, verses 13 through 18. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desires and enticed. Then, after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. Don't be deceived, my dear brothers and sisters. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. He He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might bear, that we may be a kind of first fruits of all he created. Okay. So I just had transcribed this one. Oh, I guess no, this is from a while ago. I transcribed these earlier, so I'm trying to remember. There's another verse in James that is going to come after this on the next video. So God cannot tempt, and God is not tempted by evil. We are tempted with our own feelings and temptations and evil, essentially, evil desires. So this is important because once that desire is there, it then gives birth to sin, and then sin gives birth to death. So that is a linear cause and effect there that takes place. So it's good to just reject and to shun just all types of like mixed messages that you may be getting, because they're probably not from God. So noted for myself as well. It's gonna just gives birth. He chose to give us birth through the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of all he created. So yes, God loves us like children. So it is important to have that pure love and that pure understanding of love when reading the word, when spending time with God. It's very, very important. So yes, that is how I'm going to wrap up this one. I will catch you later in anger, which is something I greatly need. And then tomorrow or today, later today, we are going to go over revenge. So we have anger and then revenge. So how fitting. Let's go into anger, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.